Welcome to episode 3 of our series where we are trying to repaint the side of our narrowboat with the aim of getting a finish that's almost as good as the professionals achieve. However, we aren't professionals, we're DIYers, and we don't have the luxury of a heated painting dock. In the previous 2 episodes, we sanded the boat, rust treated it, used body filler on a few areas showing damage, then sanded that filler smooth, and we were about to start with a coat of primer. But at the last minute we decided to do one final coat of rust treatment first. We decided putting that extra little bit of effort in now would hopefully protect the boat for years to come. Having made that decision to do that extra rust coat yesterday, now means I just need to give the boat a quick sand over just to key it up. And then finally we can start to get some paint on this boat. Well, after hours and hours of sanding, rust treating, sanding, rust treating, washing, wiping, it's now finally time to get some paint on. What we're going to do is Dawn's going to roller the paint. I'm then going to, around the edges and the tops, try and do what's called laying off, which is where I just go over it with pretty much a dry brush to get rid of any roller marks. These first 4 coats of primer aren't too important with the laying off technique because we sand it afterwards.
Yes.
But for one, it gives us a bit of a practice with laying off, and for 2, the smoother we get it,
the better.
The better. Right. So, away we go.
Do you want me to do the top?
Yes, you roller the paint on everywhere.
Right.
The areas where I can and think it needs laying off, I will do so.
Right.
The thing with this is Dawn needs to work reasonably quickly, because if, for example, once she's rolled there and then moves over to here, where she then overlaps back onto what she's already done, will already be starting to dry, and then that can affect how it all sort of dries and finishes. Like I said, this isn't so important on these primer coats, but let's get that technique while we can, eh? We'll cover more of the laying off technique and what that actually does and how it works when we do the top coat. But in essence, when you roller it, you always end up with kind of a stippled finish. Laying it off allows the paint to... Sorry?
It's the air in the...
Yeah, the air kind of in the roller sort of leaves bubbles behind, if you like. Whereas when you go over it then with a brush, that allows the paint to sort of relax into itself, gets rid of any air and allows a smoother finish. First little section done then. Dawn just needs to pick up the pace, I think. Chop chop, come on. With the laying off, I'm not really looking to either put any paint on or take any off. I'm just looking to move it and let it relax. And with this first coat especially, it's not so much looking at the coverage. We're not trying to cover it. You can still see the old paintwork showing through. It's just getting a nice smooth finish. That's why we're going to do this in 4 coats of primer, to build it up in nice thin layers, rather than just trying to go for one thick layer that'll end up with lots of blobs and marks and things all over it.
Shows up any imperfections as well,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Straight away I can see, just in this area here, there's a couple of little dints, if you like. Once we've got the first couple of coats of primer on, we're going to go over the entire boat and look, see where areas like that do then just need a little bit of sanding back, more sanding, and a little bit of filler in there, just to bring them level. It's obviously all going to be a bit of a judgment, because at the end of the day this boat's, we reckon, about 40 years old. We are never going to get a bang flat perfect finish, but what we want to try and do within reason is get rid of any lumps and bumps that we can do. Dawn's just picked up a bit of a blob there, so we've got that one out of the way. So already I can feel, I think I've left that little bit too long before trying to lay it off, because I can feel the brush is kind of dragging into the paint, which means it's obviously just started that very first process of setting.
I'm going as quick as I can.
The reason I want to try and lay off around the corners and edges is because obviously, like I said, once we've got these 4 coats of primer on, we are going to give the boat a sand over, a very light sand over. But these corners and edges, if we start giving them a light sand over, even just by hand, with a chance of going very quickly through the actual primer. So the smoother and better I can get these edges now, the less sanding it'll need, and the less chance there is of ruining that primer coat that we've put on. We are able to cheat a bit as well, because you can probably see down there Dawn's going onto the gunnel, and that's because we're going to repaint the gunnel afterwards, so we're not having to just cut in down on that bottom section. That's making it a little bit easier. The process of painting a narrowboat is slow, tedious and repetitive. Hence we're trying to keep each video short and hopefully as interesting as possible. So in each video we're trying to show the separate processes that are involved in painting our narrowboat. And we have to remember that the key to a good paint finish is all in the preparation. So unfortunately we can't take any shortcuts. As mentioned already, and as you will see shortly, there is a lot more filling and sanding required yet. So a large tin of filler and a variety of sanding sheets will also be required. Not to mention a huge amount of patience to make sure the job isn't rushed. To aid our task of trying to achieve a really good finish, we have purchased a top quality paintbrush for doing the laying off of the top coat, along with some really good quality rollers. As much as I don't like spending money, and I'm a self-confessed tight Yorkshireman, there's certain times where you need to spend the money to get the right equipment that's needed to complete a job properly. This being the second coat, we're now going to leave the boat for a good few days, let this really harden up, and then we can come back to it and start doing all the detail of trying to fill in all these little blemishes, of which there are loads. We found getting these couple of coats of primer on was a massive boost for the morale, because it's at this stage you actually start to see a difference and realise that all the hard work is actually worthwhile. However, that morale boost quickly faded, as once that second coat of primer was dry, we could really start to see all the imperfections we were going to have to deal with. Some of these imperfections are from things like rust and where panels have been joined in the past. However, quite frustratingly, a number of the issues we're going to have to deal with are as such man-made. In terms of it's as we were using the sander, we've dug into the paintwork and created divots that will now need filling to bring everything back level. So ultimately at the end of the day there was only one thing for it. Yes, a barbecue and some beers. And that combination made us feel an awful lot better about the task in front of us. After moving the boat the following day, the towpath was on the other side of the boat. So Dawn took this opportunity to dust off her sign writing brushes and have a little practice at painting the name Rosalie down the side of the boat.